Good morning, everyone, and happy Monday. Thanks so much for joining today's stream. Welcome, Jamie, Corbin, Alex, G. Thank you guys so much for joining. As always, let us know what stocks you're watching this morning. But the market is trending up right now. We have stocks like Moderna continuing to explode. They've really been on a run. The SPY is trending up slightly. We have some big earnings this week with DraftKings, Penn, Baba. There was a couple other ones. Moderna is one of them. A lot of big earnings, so we're definitely set for an interesting week.
Yeah, I cannot wait for some of these earnings. We have Roku, Uber, Etsy, Fastly, General Motors, CVS all on Wednesday. I'm really excited for that. Tomorrow, actually, before open, we're going to have an exciting day because we're going to have Alibaba, Corsair, and British Petroleum, and even LLY. So it's going to be very interesting. There weren't too many earnings today, but man, the market's about to open. And, we, like you said, we have a lot of stocks up today. DraftKings is ticking up in pre-market. We have that SPY up in pre-market also. Tons of tech stocks are up. I think we have AMD actually moving down, which is pretty surprising, but they've really been running. NVIDIA looks like they're popping back up towards those all-time highs. So we're going to have to see how this ends up playing out.
Yeah, so many stocks are up this morning. Welcome Jay, Vicky, Mac, and Mindy to the stream. Let us know what stocks you guys are watching. Looks like the market's about to open up in 1 minute. But Tom, how's NVIDIA looking? I know this one's been elevated for a couple weeks now. Do you have any levels or anything on this one?
Yeah, there's a huge resistance right around that $200 area. I think that that's going to pose as a big wall in the shorter term. But whenever we're looking at NVIDIA, there's been a lot of momentum almost to the downside the past couple of weeks, and we're now starting to tick right back up. Hopefully we can get up and back through that 200 resistance. We hit 198.53 on Thursday and went down around there. So you can look right around there too, but anywhere between there and 200 seems like a huge level. And obviously 200 is going to be a big psychological level, just being, the key spot that it is.
For sure, and I'm extremely curious to see how Baba does this week, because I know that they have earnings, and I know that they've been struggling a lot over the past couple months, and all of these new regulations definitely didn't help them. But in my opinion, that they're at some pretty awesome levels. But these regulations can definitely be pretty harsh on them.
Yeah, they could be, and hopefully it doesn't keep making them go down after those earnings. I think the earnings might be a pretty big thing coming up tomorrow before open. So it'll be really fun to honestly watch this one. If you guys are in the chat today, definitely let us know what you think about Baba for tomorrow. It'll definitely be pretty interesting. But man, the market just opened up. Looks like we have the SPY ticking to the upside, kind of like we saw in pre-market, at least for right now. So hopefully we can kind of continue this upwards momentum that we're seeing.
So it looks like Palantir got smacked right at open. I don't know if you saw that one or not. Huge red candle. They were trending up this morning. Take a look at Palantir.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty bad move there on the 1 minute, man. Moving below the low of Friday even. That's pretty bad. Yeah, Palantir is not looking good, falling below 2160. Let's see. Let me kind of look on the 15-minute here and kind of see what some bigger levels are. There's obviously that big resistance or support, I should say, down there at $21. That's going to be the best level to look for. It looks like somewhere right around 2150 is a decent support too, and we almost hit that this morning. So seems like we got pretty close. Maybe we'll see some more upwards movement now for the rest of the day. But man, that was a pretty bad sell-off at open, Mike. Man, we might see some bad movement back down to that 21 support.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. All right, so let's see. We have Mindy saying Tesla, CMG, and Snow are on the watch list. So yeah, so I know Tesla was up pretty well at open. They're up wow, they're doing pretty well, Tom. Look at this movement.
Yeah, I'm surprised nobody was talking about Tesla yet. This was an amazing move. They broke that $700 resistance level, moving up very strongly today. I really love the move with them. I love the way they popped up in pre-market. It really is up above that 700 level, which is, to me, the biggest, has been the biggest level over the past couple months. If we go look at that max daily chart with Tesla, you can see how they've hit 700 just 3 times almost over the past couple months. So I'm really glad to see that good move up above there. I think that they could definitely kind of keep this momentum up today for sure. I really like that move. And man, I'm wondering how high they can end up getting today, because that break of 700 was pretty significant, but I wouldn't think that they could get too high. But it looks like the last time they actually broke 700, looks like they ran all the way up to around, let's see, 762 on that day.
Yeah, and then Snow and CMG aren't looking bad either. They're not moving quite as much as Tesla, but personally, I think CMG is a little bit overbought, especially on the daily. Like this stock has been exploding for like the past 2 months, and this movement is like unreal.
It really is. CMG, I don't even understand how it could be moving like this. I guess the pandemic's helping, a lot of like a lot of these fast food companies and stuff like that. But just looking at this stock on like the max daily chart, it's insane to see like the type of movement that this stock had. I know they had like those E. coli problems a couple of years ago, and like in 2015 ended up going down off of those, but they did recover very, very nicely at 1,800 a share. It's honestly kind of blowing my mind looking at this chart.
Yeah, crazy stuff. Let's see. We have Bro Wall Street asking about SPLK resistance. Let's take a look. SPLK, so it's down a little bit today. Let me take a look intraday. The major resistance I see is right around $143.50. And then I see a support at 140. Do you see anything else?
Yeah, I see the same thing about that you're saying, especially on the daily chart. Looks really close to that. And it almost on the daily to me looks like an inverted head and shoulders, Mike. It really looks like that. And man, hopefully we can see this SPLK start to move back up for like the next couple months. I think we could get some good movements, but I think those levels that you gave were pretty solid. That level up there around like 145, 146 is definitely going to be large.
All right, so Tom, I'm looking at a bunch of different stocks this morning, and it looks like the one with the most momentum is Tesla. So Tesla is now up 3%. It broke above that $700 level. We're getting close to 710. Tons of volume coming in this morning. It's giving me like flashbacks of last year. Like every day we would just see Tesla explode to the upside.
Yeah, we would, and I think there might be some newfound confidence in Tesla. Tesla's starting to really move up. They're still below my blue line, which they've like failed to break out above on the daily chart. But I feel like this time with them breaking 700, they're gonna possibly run back up towards this resistance up around 780 or 800 over the next like week or so. But I'm with you. I'm really hoping that there's a newfound like resurgence with Tesla. The good thing is look at their EPS. It was 1.45. That was a pretty good earnings, actually beating their estimate by over 100%. So that's awesome to see, and really killing their old EPSs as well ever since COVID. So that's a great thing to see with Tesla. And I think that going forward, they'll only get better and better. They're supposed to like start producing trucks at the end of this year, beginning of next year. So I think it'll be really interesting for them. And I think that once they start really getting those trucks going and everything, they'll start to really run on the daily chart. I think that we'll see them break 700 over the next couple of years. But I think this move above 700 in the short term is bringing in so much volume, so much confidence. Now we're hitting 710 on the 1 minute. It's just awesome to see this constant green candles ever since open. But it looks like 710 is going to pose as a little bit of a resistance. That's a pretty big move right off of there.
You know it. And then the stock from the end of last week, AMD, that thing was such a powerhouse, and they are a great company, but they're finally pulling back. Looks like they're down around almost 2% today, but it's definitely not a good way to start the day.
Yeah, it's not. That's actually a crazy thing to see with AMD. That move down's pretty bad, actually. And I'm wondering how that's affecting the QQQ. And man, the QQQ is actually going red. So that's a pretty bad thing. And man, I really just think that right now, a lot of these like tech stocks, Mike, like we've talked about in the video last night, have a lot of potential to go down. I was really hoping for a kind of tech bounce, at least today. And we saw that with a few stocks, but a lot of these ones are really selling off. But I'm glad to see the EV market doing great.
There we go. So let me take a look at a couple different stocks. Looks like Target's coming down, Tom. They're down around 1%. It's about time. I mean, they've been going up every single day for like the past couple months. So it's about time we see this one fall.
Yeah, I know. Target's looking pretty bad right now. It's actually like double topping almost up there if you count the pre-market movement at that like 260, 350 area. So that's a really good move, I think. And Mike, it might be a good time for Target for anybody who's been waiting to enter. I'm not saying that we're going to see a big bounce to the downside or anything, but man, I think that this is going to be almost the start of this move back down now. So just keep in mind, like I'm saying, we're not going to see like a guaranteed huge move or anything, but I think that we're getting really close to those types of levels.
Alrighty. So it looks like we have Alex saying watching Baba and JD feel Baba will go upwards. Yeah, I mean they have earnings in a couple days, so just definitely be on the lookout for that. I think that they're at some pretty solid levels though. Either way, we have Hunter saying same candle happening to lots of stocks, especially the growth. So I think he was referring to when we saw like Palantir. Let's see. Alex said maybe Tesla moving because of XPEV. How's XPEV looking, Tom? XPEV.
Yeah, XPEV is running up too. They're up 5.4%. I don't know. I'm not sure if XPEV is following Tesla or if Tesla is following XPEV, but I would think Tesla is almost following themselves. They had some pretty good earnings, and it looks like they're running up a little bit more significantly than XPEV is. I know XPEV is up higher percentagely, but for just how high of a stock price Tesla is, up there around $708 or so, that's really a big difference than XPEV being at 42. So I can see Tesla possibly being a little bit better of a move than XPEV, but I think XPEV is more following Tesla in my opinion.
All right. And we have Russ saying mRNA is killing. It is. This thing is such a powerhouse. It has so much momentum. And, it looks like it's pulling back a little bit right now, but, it's still a powerhouse.
Yeah, mRNA has been killing it on that daily chart, man. I mean, on the especially in the 1 year, you can just tell how significant it's been ever since it broke $200. It just went almost straight up to the upside, looking really solid actually. And this move up above 300 and $50 has been pretty significant too. But I'm definitely looking for a pullback, kind of like what we're seeing with Target going on. And we've been just waiting, and it's been the same story with Moderna, but Moderna is definitely a lot more volatile though. They're pretty solid.
All right. And then let's see. We have M saying SQ calls are printing. Yeah, let's take a look. SQ is doing so well, Tom. You got to check out an intraday chart of this. This is probably one of the craziest charts I've seen in a while. Like, it gaps down on earnings, and then it just slowly explodes. Like, this is literally one of the craziest setups I've seen in a while.
Yeah, this is nuts. And, this goes to show that earnings can be absolutely insane. Could you imagine waking up this morning if you were a short seller and you bought puts before these earnings? You would have been so happy. And then it opened, you would be crying. Like this would be the worst thing to watch if you had bought puts before this. But wow, this is a straight up explosion. Big resistance coming up around 269.50, 270 area. But man, this explosion is so significant. Look at it on the 1 minute. I mean, this is almost straight to the upside. I'm really curious. I got to see what's going on with Square because this is a really crazy thing to see.
Oh, yeah, so they announced they had plans to acquire Afterpay in an all-stock deal valued at approximately $29 billion. So looks like that's definitely having an influence on it. But that's just crazy movement overall.
And that's a pretty big deal, actually. 29 billion. Normally we see like little acquisitions out of companies, but man, that's good to see actually another big one come in. I'm glad to see that, and hopefully it helps Square keep going up over the next couple of weeks because I know that they've been consolidating for a little while now, and I'm glad to see this move right back up. I think that shows that they might have some strength and they might start to go back up and retest those highs.
All right, we have Hunter saying Hood is green, unfortunately. Yeah, I feel like I was expecting a lot more hype out of that Robinhood IPO. Like, honestly, not too many people are talking about it in Discord or Facebook or YouTube or whatever. I mean, it's not really moving too much either, but I was just expecting more hype.
Yeah, me too. I thought that there'd be way more hype, way more momentum. With Hood, it looks like that there hasn't really been too much movement. They are green today, but I would say that they could still like possibly hit this resistance around 37 and go down, but anything can happen with them. I would say that for the longer term, though, they should start going up, unfortunately. I know that they're definitely not my favorite broker. I'd rather use other people, of course, but, I use like TD Ameritrade. Everybody knows that. That's who we're using for the charts right now, actually. And just looking at all these stocks going forward, I would say like Robinhood's had a very strange IPO. They're honestly really flat. And I was expecting a lot more movement with them.
You know it. All right, let's see. With the next comment, we have Mike saying, good morning, everyone. Thoughts on Etsy? Let's take a look. ETSY, they have earnings in a couple days. They're at a major support at 180. To be honest, it's just not worth the play in my opinion because they have earnings in 2 days. So unless you're trying to get like a quick like play, it's just I'm not seeing anything too crazy with this one.
Yeah, I'm not either. It kind of pulled back now on like the 1 minute to this morning. It's actually like getting back towards those lows of Friday. I think that there's a good support there around like 182.39, 182.40 area. But if you're looking at it on the daily chart, it's looking pretty bad. It's been pulling back pretty hard off of these levels. And I would say just comparing it to every other stock I'm seeing, the setup looks pretty strange. And going into these earnings, this is not the type of movement that you want with earnings coming up. So like with them coming up in after hours today, right, Mike?
No, it's in like 2 days, I believe.
Okay, in 2 days. That's why I wasn't seeing it on the intraday chart. But I was like, yeah, I was just really confused there. But really looking at Etsy, I'm thinking like, man, like with these earnings, I'm thinking with like all this downwards movement into them, that's not a lot of confidence. So they might end up going down, but I'm praying for like a little bit of recovery out of them.
Yeah, for sure. So it looks like Boeing's bouncing off a pretty nice support right now around like 225, which is good. And then Disney's having a pretty good bounce too. So it looks like the value stocks are trending pretty well. It's good to see Disney popping up because I'm a huge fan of them for the long term. And I know they struggled a little bit on Thursday and Friday.
Yeah, they did. That was actually a pretty steep sell-off. We started to see it kind of pulled back to like that 176-ish area. And man, I was looking for it maybe to hit like the 174 support. But hey, if it starts going up today, the sooner the better. So hopefully it keeps going up. And, there's a pretty big resistance around 180. Hopefully we can kind of break up and through that. I think if we get through there, we'll see a pretty good move. Maybe go back up and retest 184, or we'll start to actually, see a decent little breakout. Maybe I'm really hoping we see a good breakout here. Disney's been kind of consolidating for a couple months, and I think people are kind of buying into Disney, kind of buying up the dip. Their EPS got a little bit better than the last one too. So hopefully with these next earnings, we see continued growth out of them.
There we go. And then we have M saying Tesla AI Day is coming in 2 weeks. Lots of expectations. 730 price target. So I was actually reading up on this a little bit. Just one thing to keep in mind is remember how everyone hyped Tesla's battery day so much, and then it was kind of a flop in terms of like the stock price performance. So I just want to remind everyone about that because everyone was loading up on calls before that. But yeah, I think Tesla's a great company, and I'm excited to see what they announce.
Yeah, what's the name of the next announcement?
Tesla AI Day.
Oh, AI Day, huh? That'll be pretty interesting. I'm wondering what they're going to talk about exactly. Do you think they're going to talk mainly about like the self-driving capabilities and stuff?
I would assume, I also know that that Elon Musk, like one of his main goals was to get like some of like the best talent in AI to work for Tesla, and obviously that has a ton of benefits, but I would definitely expect a lot about the self-driving, and who knows what else Elon has up his sleeve.
Yeah, I know. There might be a lot of really interesting stuff, and I would honestly expect this one to garner a lot more attention, or at least a lot more support than the Battery Day. And I think that they might learn from Battery Day. And Battery Day got really, really technical, and I think that they kind of might like dumb it down and keep it a little more simple so people can kind of follow along a little better.
Yeah, I think that'd be a very good decision by Tesla. And then we have, let's see. We have Alex saying, thoughts on Fubo for shares at these levels. So let's take a look. FUBO, I like it. It's not my favorite play in the world, but I like it. I also like Corsair, Boeing, DraftKings, Redfin, NCLH, Penn's a solid one. So yeah, I don't think Fubo's bad at all. It's just I like other stocks better, but I think it's at a pretty good level though overall.
Yeah, Fubo's not terrible, to be honest. It's like right around that support, like around like $25. So I really like that. That's a good sign. And I think you're right around the longer term support. So like if you want shares, I think now's a good time to start averaging in. Now I wouldn't, leaps could work out here too, but shares are going to be a lot safer. I think that, I think that DraftKings could have a pretty good earnings, but I think CRSR tomorrow at earnings might do pretty good. They're bouncing off that bottom support around like 28.50. they're kind of like in that tech like slash gaming sector, which has done really, really good. And Corsair is like one of the bigger gaming brands. So hopefully they get some great sales and they're right on support. I see this a lot with earnings where these stocks are bouncing right on technicals. And if they're bouncing off supports, sometimes you'll see a huge move up on those earnings. So, I'm not saying that that's going to happen for sure here, but I think that as far as like shares go, both stocks, Fubo and CRSR, are at very good levels to buy for the longer term.
All right, so we have bank stocks slowly creeping up there, Tom. They're kind of running up under the radar. JP Morgan's up around 1.5%. Bank of America up over 1%. Morgan Stanley up 2.5%. Goldman up over 2%. They're slowly creeping up there.
Yeah, I've been actually flipping through Fox News and CNBC on my TV, and they've been hyping up bank stocks all morning. Bank of America is killing it. I love to see these stocks going up like this. These types of moves are just really awesome to see, to be honest. I love the way how JP Morgan's starting to finally break back out to the upside. We had JP Morgan, but now it's good to see it going up actually on the daily chart, kind of moving up, kind of like that move I kind of had been looking for last week. But man, hopefully we can kind of see this type of rise. And I think we might go back up and retest 160 or at least like 159.50 over the next like few weeks. But man, these types of moves with JP Morgan are just looking pretty good. I'm really glad to see like all these banks rising at the same time, especially like right after Powell talked last week. I think that shows that the banks are still going to do pretty well right now, even though the rates are going to stay low.
Yeah. And then we also had Alex saying, how does LVS look this morning? So, Tom, if you can go to a daily chart of LVS, I want to point something out real quick. So, right now, LVS looks very similar to how it did on, you could say, like February 1st. So we can see February 1st of 2021, it had an earnings report. It had like almost the same pattern that we're in right now. And a couple days later, it popped up. So that doesn't mean that it's going to do the same exact thing this time. But I think the pattern looks extremely similar to how it did on February 1st, which it popped up afterwards. So overall, I like it. They're up around you could say a little over 1.5%. And they have some good momentum to start the day.
Yeah, and there was a lot of movement around this $45 area too. So I think that honestly brought in like a lot of people that got brought to their attention, at least at that $45 support. I think a lot of people are going to be looking at this one. And I just see a lot of like volume coming in even on the daily chart, just day after day after day, whether that's negative volume or not, some of those are definitely buyers. And I would definitely look for this one to start going up over the next like week or so, at least. Just looking at the stock, as it goes down, it has to start going up eventually. And especially given the type of sector and everything that they're in, that's going to be a pretty good thing. And they're coming up on a lot of these big support levels too.
Awesome. All right. And then we have Sean saying, I'll throw you a crazy one. How about FUV for a short squeeze? Let me take a look because I don't even know their short interest. Give me 1 second on this one. But let's take a look at the chart.
Yeah, this stock's actually pretty crazy here.
Let's see. So FUV, a 36.5% short interest, Tom, or short float, and they're trending up. I wouldn't doubt it. What do you think?
Man, I would not doubt it either. I'll be honest. This setup looks pretty bullish right now. It's holding all these SMAs. It's starting to really go up off that like $15 support area. I really like the stock. I think FUV looks really solid. Honestly, like, man, this setup looks pretty good. I'm glad you brought this to my attention. I'm going to place a couple alerts, I think, above some of these highs. And if we see a breakout, man, it might be a great time just to, even if you buy like a couple hundred, maybe a few hundred shares, just for like a quick day trade or something, man, this one could work out pretty good if you catch a good rise.
Yeah, there we go, Tom. I mean, it's not bad, and it has that high short float. So who knows? I'll definitely have my eye on it with you. And then, Tom, I'm not sure if you saw yet, but AT&T stock's not looking bad today. They're up just under 2%, which is pretty big for a slow-moving stock like AT&T.
Yeah, that's a pretty good move for them. And look at that. Ever since open, that's a pretty good rise. Hopefully they don't start falling back down, but I'm really glad to see them break out of that like 28.40 resistance. They hit off there quite a few times. So hopefully we see continued movement up with AT&T. And they just had those earnings that were, they were decent. They weren't the best, but they did beat on the EPS a little bit. And I would expect the whole 5G sector to kind of go up over the next like year or so. So hopefully AT&T can kind of get that momentum back up. And the good thing I think with AT&T is that they generally like don't follow the overall market. So I think that's a good thing also.
There we go. UPST is also slowly creeping up there, Tom. I'm not sure if you saw this one, but they're like slowly moving up. They've been consolidating a lot for like the past month, but I think that they do have a lot of potential to continue up. It's just, there's a lot of resistance overhead.
Yeah, there's a lot of resistance. I will say though, they've been like following this 100 SMA on the daily chart pretty well. They've been like failing honestly to fall below it on the daily. They've only fallen below it like very slightly and then popped right back up. So that's a good thing to see. I think that this support also at 120 is going to be pretty good, and I like the way they bounced there. And that was also right at that 100. So hopefully we can see some more good movement. Like you said though, there's those scary resistance levels, kind of like right around like 126 to 127. That's going to definitely pose as a hard level to get through over the next couple days. But I will say though, it looks to me like we might actually pass through there.
There we go. Love to hear that. Then we have Corbin saying, how does DraftKings and GLD look today? So DraftKings is looking pretty good. I was just looking at them a couple minutes ago. They're trending pretty well so far this morning. GLD's not looking the best. They're not looking terrible. It's just they're not great. But I think DraftKings is definitely going to be one to watch for this week, considering that they have earnings, I believe, on Friday.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a big one to watch for. DraftKings has been a really popular stock, honestly. I not just that, Mike and I have loved it. I know that we're obviously biased towards it, but there's a lot of other people that have loved DraftKings as well. And they're all over the place. They're at every baseball game. They're plastered everywhere. They're sponsored by the UFC. At every sporting event, they're just about all over everything. So it's a really good thing for DraftKings. And I think that they'll bring in a lot of money over the years, especially as these states start to kind of legalize sports betting more and more. Like my state, for example, Missouri, has not legalized it yet. So whenever it does legalize it, that's going to bring millions and millions and millions of customers to DraftKings. Now, I'm not saying, like 5 million customers or anything, probably like, like in Missouri, probably like 500,000, 300,000, who knows? But as these states just go year by year, more and more are going to start legalizing. And it's a really good thing to see. And I think that it's just at such good levels to buy for the longer term right now. The all-time highs are around $74 to $75. And that's honestly a huge rise. Like if I get out my drawing tool really quick and I kind of like look at this percentage, if you buy in at $50 a share, and we go up, we go up to all-time highs, you'll be up around 47 to 50%. So that's a pretty good move, honestly. And, you could wait for DraftKings to go lower, but we might not ever get there. If these earnings go well, this might be the lowest we see DraftKings in a long time.
Yeah, I hope they explode off of earnings. And another thing, like you said, Tom, was, they're everywhere across a bunch of different sporting events and basically everywhere. But they also had that news with the NFT company a couple weeks ago, which, it's great because they're showing, well, one, they're getting into like a very, how do I describe this? Like a highly, I don't know, like a lot of people are like, really into like the blockchain and NFTs and all that stuff. There's a lot of hype in that industry right now, and they're shifting towards that. But on top of that, in my opinion, it just shows that the company is willing to adapt and like venture off into different industries. And I think that that's a great like attribute to have. So I like DraftKings for the long term. Maybe they explode on earnings, maybe they tank. Who knows? Earnings are always a 50-50, but I'm a huge fan of them for the long term. And then we have Matthew asking about the Dow Jones and how it's at the all-time high. So DIA is, like he said, it's breaking all-time highs right now. It's trending up pretty well, and we have a lot of value stocks trending up today, mainly the banks. So like JP Morgan is up well, Goldman's up well. I'm just looking at I'm looking at the visualization for the Dow right now, and we have a lot of the tech stocks down like Apple, Microsoft, CRM. But when you look at banks, you look at Chevron, Boeing, CAT, Triple M, IBM. A lot of the, I guess you could just say like traditional value stocks are in the green by a good amount today.
Yeah, they really are. And that's a great thing to see, actually. I think that's good for the overall market. And I think it'll even be good for like some of these airlines. Maybe we might start to see like a pop out of like them even because they generally do well when the Dow does pretty well. And with the Dow popping above 35,000, I think that's going to be pretty significant actually. They've been kind of failing to stay above there for like the past like few weeks now, and I think that's going to be a really good thing for the movement with the overall market in the shorter term. And it might show that we might just start going up and going to all-time highs again. And honestly, the Dow looks like a pretty decent breakout play right now. So I'm glad that they brought that to our attention. And like you said, Mike, I think the main reason today, though, is just those banks. Those banks are definitely killing it.
Alrighty, let's see what else we have moving. Looks like Verizon's trending up pretty well too. They're up around 0.5%. They had a good open, but they're slowly just fading off to end the day, or to not to end the day, to end the morning run, I should say. But honestly, this chart looks pretty similar to AT&T's.
Yeah, it does actually. It's kind of running up this morning, and even the daily kind of looks pretty similar. They're pulling back on the daily, and that's where it looks even, like way more similar. And they're actually like kind of bouncing around that 1,000 SMA on the daily. And, I would honestly expect these 5G companies to start to do better for the longer term. I'm surprised to see them kind of pulling back like this. And to be honest, Verizon's chart, it looks like it's just a slow moving stock. It's been a safer stock for the past few years, and a lot of people like really look at Verizon as just like one of those slower, like safer movers, but they're looking at it for like a good, like longer term 5G play too. So it's unfortunate to see it not like, continuing that good momentum, but it might be at a good buying opportunity right now. And man, I would expect a lot of investors to kind of look at like Verizon, AT&T, and some of these other stocks and kind of say that they're undervalued. And I would hope that a lot of like whales start to buy in soon.
Yeah, Tom, you gotta check out. So Sean just said FUV is popping off. Check this out intraday. It's starting to explode.
Yeah, it really is actually. Right after we said that, right at $17. I'm glad he brought that to our attention. That's a crazy thing to see all the way up to 17.50 now. I wonder like if this thing will short squeeze. Is it starting to garner like momentum on like Wall Street bets or something? I'm gonna have to like look into this later on.
Yeah, I'm actually very curious. Like that's it's looking pretty good. It's up 6.5%. Of course, it is going to be risky given the type of setup it is, but we all know how some of these short squeezes play out. Like we saw many times with AMC, GME, and a ton of other companies. So it's crazy, Sean. You definitely got that one pretty quick.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's actually leading my watch list too, up like 6%. And wow, man, I mean, if we see a good move here, this will be a really good stock. And, I would say if we could get a good move up above $18, that would show, I think, that we're going to actually see a really good run. But I'll say, though, the setup on the daily, Mike, it looks really intriguing, really enticing to kind of, really like keep an eye on this one. I think it could have a pretty good move over the next few days. And look at that implied volatility starting to run up.
Oh, yeah. And then, Tom, what's going on with Tesla? They're right at this 720 resistance.
Man, they're all the way up to 720 now. The last time we looked, they were around 710. So, yeah, that's a great thing to see. Love to see Tesla keep going like that. That's awesome. Is the QQQ still running too? I know that they were having some trouble, and man, it's not looking good for the QQQ, but Tesla is looking awesome. I know that Tesla's in the S&P 500 now too, so that's a good thing. Hopefully that's helping the SPY, which it's probably not, but overall, I mean, overall Tesla is looking awesome. Mike, do you think it's going to get rejected at 720 today? I mean, there's so much movement on it. Like, do you think it'll keep going?
I mean, I definitely wouldn't bet against it, but what I am looking at is I'm not sure if the viewers right now saw the videos from over the weekend, but so historically speaking, like when Amazon falls like we saw on Friday, normally they continue to sell off for like a couple days or at least a couple weeks, right? So Amazon either way is down a lot from its highs. Apple's struggling a little bit too, and that's just kind of like making the SPY and QQQ weaker. So in terms of your Tesla question, I definitely wouldn't buy puts on it, but at the same time, like I'm not extremely bullish on it given that a lot of these other like powerhouse tech stocks are either selling off or they're just kind of like lingering around.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. And that shows that Tesla is having some pretty good strength coming in. So hopefully it's just like investors kind of, I like you said, Mike, I think that there might be like a little bit of transition going on, like people getting out of like Amazon, Apple, maybe, and some of these other stocks, and maybe getting back into some of their all-time favorites like Tesla down there at those lows.
You know it. Let's see what else we have moving. Looks like Neo's not doing too bad. Neo is actually breaking out above that $46 resistance right now.
Yeah, they're breaking out. Tesla just broke 720, so I'm glad to see Neo running up too. And man, NIO has been one of my favorite stocks for like the past couple weeks. They're bouncing right off that $40 support. And I think for the longer term, Neo's so low that they're like, I think them under 45 was just a steal to be able to grab them that low. So hopefully a lot of people got in. I know a lot of people are holding them from the last dip down there around 34.
All right, and then we have Maine saying CRSR is popping. Yeah, it definitely is. And then Hunter was just going to say the same thing. But yeah, I like this stock for the long term. They have earnings pretty soon. And honestly, like I normally don't do this, but I might sell some puts onto this one, like going into earnings. I like them for the long term, and I wouldn't mind holding them.
Yeah, I think that'd be pretty smarter. Like I said earlier, I think even getting shares before this earnings report might be a good way to go. Normally, whenever stocks are double bottoming like this, these earnings generally go pretty well, and there's actually a lot of good upwards momentum today heading into those earnings. So hopefully we can see, some good numbers come out. But you never know. Like if people decided not to buy as much, like gaming equipment or something like that this quarter, then obviously Corsair could take a pretty big hit. But I would expect with all the online stuff and, like lately, all this gaming stuff is like out of stock because of all these chip shortages and stuff. So hopefully Corsair can kill it.
All right, and then we have Keisha saying short squeeze XELA. Let's take a look. And yes, your comments are showing up. Let's take a look. XELA, it's up around 9% today. It's running pretty well. It has resistance right around $3, but normally we don't trade penny stocks, but it has good momentum, and if you're in it, hopefully it pops up for you.
Yeah, the setup does not look too bad actually for a penny stock like this, and hopefully it keeps going up like Mike said. And we don't normally trade these. It's definitely not my favorite stock in the world, but hey, if this momentum keeps going up, it could make for some pretty good quicker trades. I'm not saying, to hold this one for like a month or anything. That would definitely be out of the scenario for me. But all I would do is try to get some quick day trades in, some quick momentum plays, but be really careful. It's so low price that it could go either way pretty quick.
All right, and then we have Blaze saying 55 strike calls for pins. So it looks like he bought those ones. So PINS, he said the 55 strike. Yeah, it's not bad. It's good that you're in the money. Not sure what your expiration's looking like, but hey, it's not bad at all. Hopefully it pops up for you. It looks intraday. It's not really doing too much, but it's definitely holding its ground.
Yeah, and it just had a big move down. So hopefully we can get a big move back to the upside and start to fill that gap. And, if we do, those calls will start to work out pretty good.
All right. And then let's see. We have Hunter saying TGTX off a cliff. Wow. Yeah, down 17%. Looks like bad earnings on this one. This one's looking pretty rough.
Yeah, they've had a couple bad earnings in a row now. That's a bad thing to see for this company. And man, they really fell through today. That was a big move, especially down below this support around $32 and then even below the $30 support. So this is honestly looking pretty bad. I don't know what to think about this one.
Here we go. And then we have M saying Tesla boom. There we go. TSLA, they are breaking above that $21 resistance right now. They're breaking through. They have a lot of momentum, and hopefully they continue up.
Man, the last time Tesla broke 720 broke 700 on the daily chart, they had a pretty solid move to the upside. Well, if we go back to April 12th and April 13th, April 13th was the day that they actually had that great move up above 700. And, if we have another move like that today, we could see Tesla end up somewhere around like 750 or higher. So, man, there could be a lot of momentum here. Sometimes Tesla, when they run, they have huge runs, kind of like what we're seeing today. And if we keep seeing this type of, if we see them break out above 722 now, I think we could see a huge run again today, at least up to like 725, 730, at least at the shorter levels. But like I said, sometimes we see those big like 7%, 8% days out of Tesla.
You know it. And then we have 11 saying Square is also booming. Yeah, this one has been exploding. It's up like 8% on the day. And I know we covered it a little bit earlier, but this is like one of the craziest chart setups I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, it really is. Those earnings were nuts. And, they beat on the earnings and then gapped down in pre-market. So it was just a weird scenario. I'm glad to see that they ended up going up, though, because, man, that daily chart setup was looking pretty decent, I'll say. It wasn't looking the best, but it wasn't looking the worst. And hopefully we can kind of get back up to highs, and a Square will follow along with some of these other stocks. And, I'm really curious if, like, Square, I know that they're not like a bank stock, but it's interesting to see all the banks going up today, too.
Yeah, very interesting. Like J.P. Morgan, they're just lingering around their highs right now. So it's definitely a good observation. We have Jay saying the ExxonMobil August 6th 59 strike calls for 69 cents. So he said the 59 strike calls. I mean, it's moving in the right direction, which is good. Just be extremely, extremely careful playing those weeklies. The theta decay will be brutal.
Yeah, that's going to be really rough. And, the oil market has been really crazy lately. We've been going up and then going down significantly. And a lot of people are trying to force oil to go down because it's been going up so rapidly. So just keep in mind that Exxon and Mobil could end up going down if we see these oil prices start to fall again. Today looks like a red day for oil, but it has been going up nicely the past couple weeks, ever since it had that little downturn below $70 a barrel. So it's nice to see it going back up. And, that's good for Exxon and Mobil anyways, not good for, for anyone who drives a lot. But either way, hopefully it helps out Exxon and Mobil. And I remember in economics class in college, my teacher, he always said, everybody who complains about the gas prices is stupid, because you should just own some gas stocks and you'll make way more money than you will worrying about an extra, $10 at the gas pump. So that actually made a lot of sense to me. And, that would make sense if you buy oil companies whenever oil's really low, and then whenever oil goes up, you don't really have to worry too much about those kind of expenses.
True that. And then, Tom, what do you think about Airbnb? They're not looking bad. They're up like 1% today. And, they're just like, they've been slowly uptrending, which is great to see in my opinion. But what do you think about them?
Yeah, I think they look pretty solid, actually. They've been looking pretty good for the past couple weeks. I'm really happy to see them moving up. They hit right off of that like bottom support at like $130.70, somewhere like right around there. I really love them. I think that they could start to get a pretty good move in the shorter term and maybe come back up and retest this like 155 area. I think that would be a pretty good move. And honestly, Airbnb is so low right now for shares. I think it's great for the longer term. I think it could be a good time for leaps right now. I think there's a lot of different scenarios with Airbnb, and they're kind of like in their own little sector. They're like they're not like a hotel stock, but it's kind of like I know a lot of people know what they are. I'm not really gonna get into explaining what they do, but Airbnb is just in that type of like hotel sector that can get pretty interesting, and it doesn't really move with the overall market, which is good. So I think Airbnb could start to go up all on their own.
Yeah, for sure. They're not, like you said, they're not really like correlated to the market overall, and they're like a unique company, and I like them. And I just know that they initially IPO'd at like a crazy high valuation, so I know that a lot of people were saying that could like work against them, but they're holding their ground and they're running up pretty well right now. We have Maine saying AMD recovered and it's green now. Any levels to look out for a day trade to the upside? Wow, I cannot believe this recovery, Tom. This is crazy. Wow.
Yeah, that sell-off today was nuts.
Wow. So here's the thing. The all-time high is $107.50, and it just broke that right now. So really there's no levels we can give you because, it's the highest it's ever been. It's breaking all-time highs right now. One insight is like normally like half and whole dollar levels are pretty like strong support and resistance levels. So like 105 is strong, 110, 115, 120. And if you want to get like a little bit more specific, like you can even say resistance around 108, 109, 110. Normally those act as good levels, but for the most part there's not really any resistance.
Yeah, there's not, and hopefully it can just keep going. Sometimes you see stocks break out to all-time highs and then start to really dip off. So hopefully we see this continued run to the upside. And I can't believe we're seeing this either. After seeing the sell-off at open, I thought maybe we were going to see the start of this kind of move back to the downside with some of these tech stocks, but this recovery is just nuts. And, we've seen this time and time again where tech just keeps resurging itself back to the upside. And man, it looks like it is starting to dip down now in the 1 minute, but man, I would look for maybe like 110 or something, considering we saw the breakout, but it looks like that might not happen. It's just going to depend on the movement over the next 30 minutes to hour, of course, but I would honestly target $110.
Yeah, that is that's pretty crazy. Like I'm looking at the options chain right now. I might do some call credit spreads. I'm pretty tempted actually. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if they keep going up, I mean, man, you would have to expect them to maybe stop somewhere around like 110 or maybe like 120, somewhere like right around there.
Yeah, so I'll have my eyes on it either way. Great call out, Maine, because I wasn't even paying attention to that one. But awesome job there. Baba's doing pretty good today, Tom. They're having a pretty solid recovery.
Yeah, they are actually. They're up above $200, which I think it was a pretty big resistance for them, honestly. I know I was looking at them at $200 for a little while now. They've hit off of it quite a few times. And if they can stay above there, I think they might start to get a decent move back up. And, Bob has been getting killed lately. I know that I'll bet you a lot of people were buying in around 205 and they got shook out whenever Baba fell down to like 180. I'll bet you so many people got screwed on this one, and now it's probably going to go right back up. So I would say Bob is pretty good for the longer term. For the shorter term, though, anything can happen. If I was going to play Baba, I would buy it right now and not even come back to it for 2 years. That's how I would look at it.
Yeah, just buy it and forget it. Sometimes that's the best thing to do with all these crazy catalysts. It can like really like shake you out. And I know that there's a quote saying, time in the market is a lot better than timing the market. So, I don't think that's a bad idea, Tom. But yeah, I'm just looking at a couple different watch lists right now. Square is leading the way, up almost 9% on the day, and they're actually breaking their high day right now.
Yeah, they are. This is getting insane, Mike. They're getting all the way up to that like 270, 269.50 resistance area. I think that we might see another breakout. If they can break out above that, I think we'll see a good move. And man, they're already up 8%, so the move's already fantastic. But man, this could start to get absolutely insane. I've seen Square have moves like this, not quite this high, but they've definitely moved like this before. And sometimes, especially like a few weeks ago, they had like 2 back-to-back days of like this. So hopefully they can do this again.
There we go. So Qualcomm's not looking bad either. Tesla's up around 5%. DraftKings not doing bad. So yeah, we have a really crazy. We're having a very crazy day. Just with some of this movement with like AMD, Tesla, Square. Like this is pretty crazy, and I know we have some big earnings towards the end of the week. So, and even actually in the middle of the week too. So we're definitely set for a crazy week. Tom, do you have any specific stocks you're looking at or anything you're watching?
Man, I'll tell you what. You just said Qualcomm, and I switched over to their chart, and they had earnings like last week, and they really popped up to that 150 area, and they're holding that ground so good today. Looks like they're popping up and they're getting right towards that high of last week. And I think that if we see a good run out of Qualcomm, we might see a pretty good run on that daily chart. This daily chart honestly looks pretty bullish, Mike. If we start to see a breakout, I think we could see a pretty decent run, and they're filling that gap. I would think we could see a good run, possibly up to like 160 somewhere later on this week if we see a good breakout, man. This is a pretty good move on earnings. And, if we see the tech sector keep going up, especially like AMD continuing to push to all-time highs, we might see these microchip stocks just start to fly.
Yeah, very interesting. They're definitely in a great sector. AMD is still running, but we have Chris saying, good morning. Do you still feel that LVS can get to 46? So yes, I do. It's very close to very, very close to support. So obviously, if it breaks below support, I'd have to cut it. However, I think it's still in a really good setup. I'm not sure if you were on the stream for when we covered LVS compared to February, but I'll do a quick rundown again. LVS's setup looks very similar to how it did on February 1st of 2021. It was right around earnings. They both really fell pretty hard. And then they had like a very unique chart pattern, which is exactly what we're seeing right now. And a couple weeks later, it exploded up. That doesn't mean LVS is going to do the same thing this time, but it is good to see that, the chart setup is extremely similar, and then that smart money was buying into LVS calls. So anything can happen, but I like the way it's holding its ground now. I'm just hoping that it doesn't fall below the support with a lot of momentum, because that would suck. But it's holding its ground now, which is good, and I'm just really watching that support right around $42.
Yeah, that's going to be a really big level for like the next few days. And hopefully we can see a good bounce and it starts to go back up, because, man, this stock will have a lot of room back to the upside. And, even if we don't catch the bottom this time, whenever we do finally catch the bottom on LVS, it'll be a really good hold. And you can hold it for maybe like a week or two and just get some really solid upside movement.
There we go. So we have Keisha saying Zoom is starting to recover. Yeah, I know they're down like 2% today, but they're popping back up, which is good. I was just reading how they had like an $85 million settlement and like a privacy lawsuit, so obviously that's not good, but compared to their market cap, it's not really too much. So I like them for the long term. They're a solid company, and I'm excited to see how they do over the next couple years. But thank you guys so much for joining the stream today and asking great questions. The market's going pretty crazy, and we have a lot of big earnings coming up. So thank you guys so much for joining, and have an amazing rest of your day.